Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Are you getting ready for Christmas yet? It's almost time. Well, maybe by the time I post it, it'll be after Christmas. But as of filming, it's not quite Christmas yet. But I'm all ready. Got my Santa hat that I'm going to be wearing during Christmas. You have a Santa hat, right? Of course you do. Everyone should have a Santa hat, right? Surprisingly enough, Qatar hosted what's called the Arab Cup. Teams from Middle East and North Africa attend. I think it's held every 4 years, and this year Qatar was hosting, kind of as a dry run for the World Cup next year. And thanks to friends who get lots of corporate hospitality tickets, I got to go to a number of games. And this was actually really great because then I got to see many of the stadiums that Qatar is building in preparation for the World Cup and see how those went. And the first match I went to, that was the hottest ticket in town because that was Qatar versus their rivals, the United Arab Emirates. This match was big. It was sold out. I think the attendance was like 63,000 people. And everyone was hoping, of course, for Qatar to win. Qatar won the Asian football championships a couple of years ago. I think it was last year, 2 years ago. That was held in the UAE, and they beat the UAE 4-0 in, I think, the semifinals. So we got to go to a stadium in the north of Qatar called Albate Stadium. It means the house, and the stadium is designed to look like a traditional Arabic tent, except it's stadium size. The thing is huge. It's a beautiful stadium. We had a bit of an issue just getting into the parking. They just don't have enough entrances for all the cars because, of course, everyone in Qatar wanted to go to this game. So lots of cars were backed up into the highway. And so it took us a while to actually park and get to the stadium. And it was a bit of a walk. The parking's pretty far away. But other than that, well organized, fairly easy to get in through security. Beautiful stadium. I mean, it's beautiful. And the fact that it was able to hold 60 plus thousand people was great. And then in the end, Qatar won 5-0. 5-0. Completely trounced them. So yeah, everyone wound up quite happy with that and moved on. The next game I got to go to was at a stadium called Stadium 974. And it's unusual in that, it looks like it's made out of shipping containers. Like, I'm, showing you pictures right now, and you'll see, it seems like shipping containers were all stacked together to kind of form a stadium. Well, that is because the stadium is temporary. Qatar is a small country. It's only about 2.6 million people. And one of the things that FIFA was concerned about when Qatar bid for the World Cup was that, they would need at least 8 stadiums. And these stadiums have to hold, I think, minimum 40,000, and you have to have a few that hold like 60 or 70,000. And FIFA, was pointing out, well, you're a country of 2.6 million people. What would you need 8 huge stadiums for? This is just no point. I mean, Albate Stadium in the north is by a city called Al-Khor, and I think that city has maybe 60,000 people. So you have a stadium big enough for every single person in the city, which is just a bit odd. So one of the things Qatar did with their bid was to say, hey, some of the stadiums are going to be modular, that you can quickly take them apart, and then we will ship them to poor countries where they will be reassembled, and so a few other cities will get stadiums out of it. And I think Stadium 974, which is one of these temporary stadiums, I think is going to be split into 2. They'll detach the lower level, send it to one city, and the upper level they'll send to another city. So that's why it has this unusual look to it. But actually, it's kind of cool. It kind of, what did I say? It looks like a museum for street art, it's just something you would find sort of in a edgy neighborhood of a city. And yes, it is built in part from shipping containers. Now, apparently 974 shipping containers were used, hence the name. But also, I think it ties in well that 974 is Qatar's phone code, so they were willing to keep that name for it. That was a cool stadium. I think that stadium can hold about 40,000 people. It is also fairly close to a metro station, so you can actually walk there from the metro, which is what I did. I met up with my friends there, and that was great. Later, I think a few days later, I went to another match at that stadium, this time during the day. And this time I went with friends in their car, and we actually wound up parking farther away than the metro station. So, yeah, so for games at that stadium, metro station's probably the better way to go. Unless you have concerns about COVID, because of course the metro was packed full of people going to the game. Another match that I got to see, and this one was also a Qatar match. This was the semifinals against Algeria. They was held in a stadium called Althuma. This one is not a temporary stadium. I think this is it's one of the newer stadiums. It was just finished, I think, a few months ago, and it has a very neat design, and it actually looks like a head covering that is typically worn under the Arabic Gurtra. Picture here of me wearing one. It's a very nice design, and the stadium could hold only about 40,000. It was a bit odd because since Qatar was playing there, you'd have thought they'd have put it in one of the big stadiums, but okay, it is where it is. And of course, the stadium was completely full, and it was beautiful, lovely stadium. And again, we didn't have any issues with security and so forth, so it was pretty smooth getting in and out of the stadium. So in that aspect, good practice run for the World Cup. I don't know if it's very close to a metro station. I think you have to go to a certain station, then they bus you in. I had driven in with friends, so I'm not sure about that. And that reminds me. In one of the matches, I think the Qatar match, like how the TV camera occasionally just goes up to the crowd or whatever. Well, apparently I was in one of the crowd shots. And because I was with all my Qatari friends, I think I stood out a bit because, I was wearing a suit at the time. I had gone to the game straight from the office, and I stood out amongst this, sea of white thobes, I guess. And even though you're on TV for like a second, I got pictures of screenshots from people going, "Hey, I saw you on TV." And I went to the office. There were people going, "Oh, I saw you on TV at the game." It was a bit weird. But Qataris do that. Like, Qataris really like to watch the games just to make sure, see if they see anyone they know, and then they'll take screenshots and they'll share them around WhatsApp and things like that, especially if people get, caught doing things they shouldn't be. There was a famous incident 2 years ago at the Emirs Cup, where a young Qatari guy, I guess he had a small pouch of tobacco, and they typically wrap it up in Kleenex and then almost like chewing tobacco, they then tuck it in their cheek. And the camera panned to him just as he was doing that. And so then everyone was like, "Oh, what's he doing?" Because of course, taking tobacco is refrained upon here. So people were sharing screenshots all over the place, like, "Oh, who's this guy? What was he doing?" And all that. Poor guy, he must have been so embarrassed. Another funny story regarding me being on television was it was taken at a sharp angle. So, people who are actually in seat rows behind you actually looked like they were sort of in the same row. And about a row behind us and a few seats down were some ladies. But in the picture, they looked a bit closer to myself and my friends. And one of my friends who was sitting next to me, he told me the next morning, he wakes up and his wife has a still of a screenshot of him at the game going, "Who are these ladies? Who are these? Who are they? Who are these ladies?" Yeah. Of course, he didn't know. I mean, they weren't even in the same row. He wasn't sitting next to him, but it looked like they were. So finally, after the Arab Cup was over, and I didn't know this was happening, there's a African club championship where, clubs from the various African countries compete for a title. It's basically the African version of the Champions League, I'm guessing. And Doha was hosting the final. Why, I don't know, but I guess it's just another way to, get more practice time in, try to iron out how things are going to work with these stadiums for the World Cup. And this was held in another stadium. It's called Ahmed bin Ali Stadium, I think, but everyone just knows it as Al Rayyan Stadium, which is the area in Qatar that it's in. And this stadium was also really beautiful. They had sort of lighting all the way around it that would shift and change color. So it was a very pretty building. And while this match, which was between the Egyptian team Al Ali and a Moroccan team, Raja, I don't remember the rest of their name. So of course there were tons of Egyptians and Moroccans in the crowd, but not enough to fill the stadium up. And the poor Moroccans, I think they were outnumbered probably about 6-1, because there are a lot of Egyptians that live in Qatar. But again, management of things was pretty good. Parking was pretty far away, but there is a metro station you can take, and you can walk to the stadium from there. We drove in with friends, but this time we had VIP tickets, so we had very close parking, and it was fantastic. And for the match at Al Rayyan Stadium, the club match, it was pretty cold that evening, and I went to my friend's place straight from the office, so I was only wearing a light suit. So a friend of mine went, "Oh yeah, no problem. I have a jacket and a hat you can wear." Yeah, there's the hat. I think he bought it during a trip to Azerbaijan or something. I'm getting very Central Asia vibes from this hat. Russia, maybe. I don't know. It was funny. We all got good laughs with it. So I wore it. I was like, I'll wear this thing. This will be funny. Bunch of Qataris and then this guy in this Russian hat or something. I don't think I wound up on TV. I don't know. It's not like many people in Qatar were watching the match. Who knows? Maybe my friends and I were on Moroccan television or something, with people just kind of going, okay, well, wonder who this Russian guy is. My friends are joking, like they'll introduce me as like the ambassador from Georgia or something, and I'm like, oh no, don't do that, man. We'll get in trouble. Like, well, what if the actual ambassador of Georgia sees that or something? He'll freak out. Don't get me in trouble with some country by claiming I work at their embassy. So anyway, it was a warm hat. The hat was warm. I will give it that. It was nice. So anyway, that's it for the updates. I did enjoy going to those matches. Things seem to be very well organized, I think, for the most part. With a few tweaks here and there, I think Qatar will be ready for hosting that World Cup. Some of those stadiums were full, completely full, and they managed to handle it just fine. Maybe a bit of issues with some of the stadiums reaching there with parking. Not sure about how well they'll be able to handle huge crowds trying to reach stadiums that are not next to a metro station. But I know they held some games in stadiums for that purpose, to test, busing people from the stations and back. So hope it all works out. And as we know, Canada is still on track to qualify for the World Cup. I'm so excited that I sure hope they manage to do it. I will definitely be going to those games. And hey, with any luck, maybe you'll all come by and we can enjoy the World Cup together. That's it for now. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you later.